in October.
Yeah.
2 years before that.
Okay, so let's get started. Okay, everyone, can you all hear us here at ADHS?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Welcome to our December meeting. As those of you who joined previously, our previous meeting in December, we didn't get quite to a quorum. So I believe, Kim, we're at a quorum right
Yes.
now. So we have enough people to go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining today and welcome to our Medical Marijuana Testing Advisory Council meeting for December. It's going to be a short agenda today, as many of you will probably be aware. We'll start out with the call to order after, and then we'll do the roll call. So I'm going to go through quickly here and we'll make sure we have documented that we have a quorum and have seen. Okay, Maxwell Lung.
Here.
Thanks, Max. Murray
Thank
Stein.
Present.
Thank you, Murray. Timothy Nolan. I think we could see you online, Timothy, so.
Present. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
perfect, thank you. Connor Griffith.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Connor. Steve Cottrell.
Hello.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Matt Lascala.
Here.
Thank you, Matt. Joe DeMena.
Present.
Thanks, Joe. Jay Neary. I don't hear Jay and we don't see him online.
Nope.
So mark him absent. Elizabeth Brady. I'll call again, Elizabeth Brady. We don't see her online, so we're going to mark her absent. Zhang Washong.
Here.
Thank you. Victor Hugo Ramos Sanchez.
Yes, here.
Ty Garber. I'll call again, Ty Garber. See him on? We don't see him online, so we'll mark him absent. Nate Allen.
I'm here.
Thanks, Nate. And Ahmed Munshi.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed, for joining. That I know you're the newest member, and we're here in the room with us last time, so we appreciate you joining online this time. And welcome to the Medical Marijuana Testing Advisory Committee. We still have 2 vacancies. One is a registered dispensary agent, and the other is a licensed healthcare provider. So again, if you know any folks that might be interested in those positions, please tell them to go to our website or contact us, and we can go through the process to see if they can, if they will get approved to be on our committee. Okay, so we have a quorum, so we're going to proceed with our meeting. And as usual, I'll just read through our council's charge before we get started. The Advisory Council shall annually review the marijuana testing programs under this chapter and chapter 28.2 of this title, and on or before the second Monday in January of each year shall submit to the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Health and Human Services Committee, chairpersons of the Senate and the House of Representatives, and the Department of Health Services, a report that does not disclose any identifying information and that includes at least the following. Firstly, an assessment as to whether an analyte should be removed from the required statutory testing panel. Secondly, the number of statements of deficiencies relating to testing that were issued to each nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary, third-party independent lab, marijuana establishment, and marijuana testing facility in the preceding year. The remediation efforts made to address each deficiency and the resolution of each statement of deficiency. The information may not disclose any identifying information, but shall delineate the information by entity. And finally, number 3, any other recommendations on improving the testing programs. So with that, we'll proceed into our next item on the agenda, which is a review of the Medical Marijuana Testing Advisory Committee report for 2024. So hopefully everyone has access to that on the website, or we're pulling it up right away here. So hopefully you can see our screen. So I think our goal usually is just to take a brief look through this, and then finally we'll conclude with a vote on whether to accept the report as seen here, with the caveat that it allows ADHS through the end of December of this year to make any adjustments if anything changes before we submit this on the second Monday of next year. The second Monday of January next year, to the list of folks that I mentioned earlier. So we'll just proceed and run through it. And if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and we will unmute you and you can ask your questions. So really, firstly, this is just our council duties, which we did talk about just a few minutes ago. Also our council membership, which you're all familiar with here. As I mentioned, we've got 2 vacancies at this point. If we can scroll up, or sorry, down, I should say. And again, this is just noting that we record all of our business, as you know, and those minutes are available shortly after the meeting on our website, which is listed there, the council website, and that's where we keep all of those documents and all of our meeting minutes and other items that we use on our agendas. And so, as mentioned there, we had multiple meetings were held in 2024. I believe there was just these 2 times that we couldn't meet a quorum, and had to postpone our meetings until we could get everyone together again. And then moving on to the council recommendations, unless there are any questions before we move on to that. I think you're all pretty familiar with that. So number 2 is council recommendations. And so I'll just talk about these briefly, and then we can have any conversation that we need. Section 2.1, removal of analytes from the testing panel. The council recommends the following analytes should be removed from the required testing panel, and there are currently no recommendations were made by the council to remove any analytes from the panel. Anyone have any comments on that?
No. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to section 2.2, which is other recommendations. And so, as I mentioned earlier, council members may include in the report recommendations for improving the testing programs. And the following are the council's additional 2024 recommendations. So firstly, the council recommends prohibiting MCT oils in vape cannabis products, and to require testing of those final products for glycerol tricapronate, glycerol tricapryllate, glycerol tricaprate, and glycerol trilaurate. Anyone, any comments on this first recommendation?
Good pronunciation.
Okay, I was trying my best. Lab scientist. I think I got a bit tongue-tied there, but I think we got it. And next recommendation is the council recommends that the state require testing for select terpenes in all protocols that promote their inclusion. Any comments on that recommendation?
Great recommendation.
Okay. Great. Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to part 3, which is testing related deficiencies and remediation. And I don't know if you guys want to do this one or you want.
You're doing great.
Okay, well, just keep going.
Wow.
Testing, part 3 is testing related deficiencies and remediation. And so firstly, medical marijuana dispensaries and marijuana establishments. And so between January 1st, 2024 and December 10th, 2024, there were a total of 115 testing related statements of deficiency, comprising 148 citations that were issued to 103 licensees, 43 medical marijuana dispensaries, and 60 marijuana establishments. Plans of correction were submitted to and accepted by ADHS for each of the statements of deficiencies, and 10 inspections resulted in enforcement and civil money penalties. Appendix 2 at the end of this document provides a de-identified listing of the dispensary and establishment testing related statements of deficiency and remediation. Appendix 3 provides the 4 most common citations issued to dispensaries, and Appendix 4 provides the 4 most common citations issued to establishments.
And just for those of you who are not used to reading this, the numbers in red are the ones that could be updated with the final numbers through December 31st or tomorrow. So we likely won't see too many changes, but those are the ones that could change.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
And Murray, you had a question?
Yeah, looking at this, I'm a little surprised at the amount of enforcement and civil money penalties. Has this been a big change from the prior years?
Actually, I think we did have it wasn't actually that big of a change. There were, let me see. Sorry, the screen gets up.
While you're doing that, is a civil money penalty something that follows if they don't, meet correction action?
So a civil money penalty can be assessed if there's like an egregious deficiency that is found, or that it's a deficiency that's been found more than one time.
Okay.
So we have an enforcement schedule we follow to make sure that we're not being arbitrary when we're assessing those. And certain testing ones obviously are pretty concerning, such as if someone has a product on the shelf that has no test results, or a product on the shelf that has failed test results and is still being sold. Those are the types of serious violations that would likely result in a fine the first time, as opposed to for a repeat deficiency.
Right. Thank you.
Are we still seeing products untested on dispensary shelves?
Not very often. I think, and it would be one thing if we went into a facility and there were a lot of products on the shelf without testing. That would likely or may very well lead to a notice of intent to revoke when it appears to be intentional. I think more often than not, we've seen where it looks like, quite honestly, an administrative error where tests were either misfiled or something and they had been done and just it wasn't everything connected, or one product may have slipped past without like one test result or something. We haven't seen a lot of products with no testing, no.
And just real quickly, when an inspector goes in, do they look at the products? Do they then request the test results for them that would be provided by the testing lab?
They do request it because per the rules, any product that's on the shelf, that establishment or dispensary should have the results available for the consumer or the patient. And then also on the adult use side, we should be able to use that QR code and see the test results that way as well. So inspectors are looking at all of those things.
It's interesting because my own experience, and whenever I go to a dispensary, I'll ask for the test results and I usually get a blank stare.
That happens to us occasionally. And that can also, sometimes that's what leads to the deficiency. If their staff members have not been properly trained, the people that are in that retail location, that's an issue because they're supposed to be able to provide those results to anyone who asks when the consumers and patients are coming in. And that's also something that can result in a complaint and that we could go out. And so sometimes that is what it is. We go out and the people in the building cannot provide us those test results, which is its own violation. As opposed to, it might not be that they don't actually have them. It's just a lack of training.
Right. Thank you.
So in an attempt to answer your question, Marie, I did put a link in the chat for the members that would be to the 2023 report. And so in answer to your question, there were 148 is what we have in this 2024 report citations. And last year there was 147. So again, the 148 could fluctuate a little bit as we get the new numbers for the whole month of December. The number of licensees grew by about 15 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Then the medical marijuana dispensaries, there were 37 last year and 43 this year. And there were 10 more establishments this year than last year. That is about how those numbers change. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea of the differences. But if you want to look at it further, I did provide the link in the chat.
Thank you.
And then,
Oh, Jean Lejean?
Yes, I have just a follow-up question on the corrective actions or civil money penalties. What does it take for the repeated offenders to get suspended or decertified for the testing purposes?
So we, like I said, we have a schedule, and if they had several of the same deficiency repeated over a period of 3 years, that could lead to a notice of intent to revoke. Or if something is truly egregious, that could also lead to a notice, such as if we went out and they had a lot of different products that had no testing, or a lot of products that had failed testing and they were still selling those. However, our notices come with appeal rights. You know, there is a due process for all of our licensing programs. And so when we issue a notice of intent to revoke, they have the opportunity to ask for a hearing in front of an administrative law judge and also an informal settlement conference. And oftentimes during that process, we are able to come to a settlement agreement. And sometimes those agreements can allow us to put further things in place to make sure that those deficiencies aren't going to happen again, such as, you know, maybe they have to hire a quality control person to come in and do audits or things like that to ensure that their testing is done, and can also lead to much higher fines than those regular civil money penalties as well.
Okay, well, sounds great. So how many notices were issued like during the past 3 years, for example?
I don't have that specific. I don't think we have that information specific for testing violations, because that's just something that we oftentimes, if we have a notice of intent to revoke, it's not based on one deficiency. It wouldn't just be because of one testing violation. It would be a pattern of non-compliance and things like that. So I don't think we have an answer for you as to how many have resulted just from testing. I can tell you we haven't actually had any revocations of establishments or dispensaries in the past 3 years. So while we have definitely issued notice of intent to revokes, we have not actually seen any revocations through the full process take place. We've been able to settle those through settlement agreements.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on 3? Sorry. Ahmed, go ahead.
I was wondering, is there a way to look into how much the civil monetary penalties were? I know we have like the number of how many were given out, but there's nothing to say like what the amount is.
So the amount is set by statute. And then as Megan mentioned already, that we have an enforcement schedule that we follow, but we are not able to, at least as part of a statement of deficiency, we cannot do more than $2,000.
So that's per violation, per citation. So I think what you're asking is there a way for us to tally up how much CMPs we've issued specific to testing over the course of the year? I think right now, the way our system is, it would be a very manual process, but we are also looking at our processes in our electronic system right now, because we're about to bring the healthcare institution programs that we license on board as well. And so we're looking at being able to track some of those things better. And so in the future, we may very well be able to provide that information for you. We just don't have it at this time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions on 3.1? Okay, we'll move on to 3.2, independent third-party labs and testing facilities. So between January 1st, 2024 and September 20th, 2024, a total of 17 testing-related reports of finding comprising 342 violations were issued to 12 independent third-party labs and testing facilities. Remediation actions include 13 corrective action plans submitted and accepted by ADHS, 1 agreement for withdrawal of applications for testing, 0 notices of intent to revoke a lab registration certificate were issued, just as Megan mentioned. 3 notices of intent to assess civil money penalties were issued, and 5 ADHS actions are still in progress. Appendix 5 of this report provides a de-identified listing of lab and testing facility inspection reports and corrective actions. Appendix 6 provides the 5 most common violations issued to the independent third-party labs.
And sorry, this is Megan again. I apologize, Victor. I just wanted to clarify something for everyone, because this may seem confusing to you. And I just said we can't provide this information at this time on the dispensary and establishment side. So this report, we are to provide you with all of the testing deficiencies and enforcement actions specific to testing. So our labs, basically any action that we take on a lab, because their whole purpose is testing, is going to be included in that. So anytime we do a notice of intent to revoke or assess a civil money penalty on a lab, it's going to be included in here because it's always testing, as opposed to it becomes a little more tricky on the other side, because there are so many other regulations that aren't directly related to testing that our establishments and dispensaries have to follow. And so it's not like one-to-one all the time. So I just wanted to point that out.
And Murray has a question.
Yeah, two quick questions. One is, you mentioned 12 independent labs. That's pretty much everybody, is it not? I mean,
Pretty
as to
much.
say, almost every lab, if they're all independent, almost every lab got some kind of violation?
Well,
Yep.
Murray, there was 24 labs at this time last year, so half of them has bit the dust as well.
Okay, I didn't realize it gotten to that many. Second question is, this report is through September 20th. Does this report get updated with additional data at some point to include the rest of the year?
It will, yes. That's what we need from whoever makes the motion to approve the report. We will need that person to recommend to approve the report while allowing ADHS to update both the lab
Right.
and dispensary data to include the entire calendar year's enforcements.
I'm not
Right.
sure if the lab one does get updated. Yes, okay, it's supposed to.
It would be really great if we could get the data on the dispensaries of all of the bad non-players there, or the players that are not playing by the rules there.
So
But I know
again,
you don't.
for this particular report, it specifically requires us to de-identify that information. So we're not allowed to provide it. We are reviewing other things at the department as we speak to see if there's any way to be more transparent in all ways with marijuana in the future, though. So there may be some updates to that going forward. But for this specific report, that would require a statutory change.
Right.
I mean, theoretically, Steve, you could FOIA the information, would be my guess.
So, right, there's a statute in medical marijuana, and it is Arizona Revised Statute 36-2810 that requires the department to keep a lot of information about the medical marijuana program confidential. This is why right now, if you go to azcarecheck.com, you can see a lot of very transparent information about adult use establishments. And you can even look on there and verify who has a facility agent card, because those are not covered under that confidentiality statute in the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. So because of that confidentiality statute, public record requests are not as open with medical marijuana as they are with some of our other programs. And then there's always personally identifiable information and personal health information that also gets redacted for any public records request that comes into the department.
I have a question. I was under the impression that the medical and the adult use were going to merge all of the programs, so that when we are meeting regarding something for medical, it is also being positioned into or moved into the adult use program. Has that, I mean, this was conversations from this committee 3 years ago that we all approved and said, hey, we want to do this, that we want, this to work on both sides of the aisle, if you will, adult use and medical. Where are we on that?
Well, one, I'll give you a brief answer, but I think we also have to be cognizant of, I think we're starting to go into territory that may not be on our agenda, which could be a violation of open meeting law. My attorney's here giving me the look that I should probably wrap this up. We're always looking to be more consistent across the programs. However, there are statutory differences between the medical marijuana program and the adult use program. We're constantly looking to see how we can make them align more. But there, like I said, that confidentiality piece, that is in statute for medical marijuana. It is not in statute for adult use. That's not something that this committee, this council is going to be able to address. This council in statute is for medical marijuana testing. Now, yes, we've talked about in the past, if you guys would like to make you can make whatever recommendations that you like related to testing. And if those recommendations include, looking if we can apply it to both medical and adult use, that's certainly something that can be included in those motions. But there are statutory differences in the programs that we have to take into account whenever we are administering anything with these programs.
Okay.
Okay, any other final questions from section 3.2? I think that we've got all the appendices in the back. They're pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if anyone has any questions on any of the appendices or would like us to look in more detail at some of them. We've got the council roster, Appendix 2. We've got testing-related deficiencies and remediation. Then we've got Appendix 3, most common testing-related deficiencies for dispensaries. Appendix 4, most common testing-related deficiencies for establishments. Appendix 5, testing-related deficiencies and remediation for labs and testing facilities. Appendix 6, most common testing-related deficiencies for labs and testing facilities. I think that appears to be everything. Anyone have any questions on any of those? Okay, we're not seeing any hands raised or, okay. So I believe our next step will be if someone would like to propose a motion to approve the report as you've seen, with the caveat that allows ADHS to adjust those numbers through the end of this calendar year if needed.
Sure, we can make that motion. Mary, you want to do it or you want me to?
You do it, I'll second.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we take the 2024 AZDHS lab report and approve it, as well as adding the remainder of the year report to this, and moving forward to file with the state regulators.
Okay, and just for the record, Murray, was it you that made the motion or
Steve did, and I seconded.
Steve?
I got
Okay.
it.
You got that, Ken? Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's take a vote. If there's any more discussion before we take a vote, any discussion?
I don't know that I'd call this discussion as much as just, I've been doing a bit of research in various industries and so on. And given the very strong likelihood of rescheduling of cannabis this coming year, obviously these things can take time. I really think in the new year, and I guess we probably meet in March or so, we need to start thinking about what broader standards are required, or maybe more limited standards are required by institutions that are more part of the legal world out there for other industries. Specifically, looking at things like ingredients, are they in fact FDA approved? To make sure that the parties that are living in the regulatory space are raising the bar, if you will, so that they're going to be available and they're able to promote their products and so forth and sell them. To meet that higher standard. A lot of people put a lot of things into their cannabis, and unfortunately, that's the real problem with the people working outside the regulated industry. As you know, there's a black or gray market out there that's doesn't fall into regulatory market, hasn't fully been enforced. That's a real problem in this state, as I'm sure all of you know. We need to be sure to make sure that these products are safe. Rescheduling will likely remove some of the stigma associated with the use of cannabis, but we just have to be really on top of making sure we make safe products.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Murray. We will make sure we have those lined up on our agenda for next year.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Any discussion? Okay, I think we're ready to call for a vote. So all those who are in agreement and approve the proposed motion, please raise your hand.
Everybody. Looks unanimous.
Looks like unanimous. I'll still call for any abstentions. If you want to abstain, could you raise your hand at this point, please? We'll just give people a minute to take their hands down. I think we got any abstentions that you're seeing there.
Hold on. Connor, can you, was yours to pass it or to?
Yeah. Sorry, I was in agreement.
Nope, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get it wrong. Thank you. Yep, it was unanimous.
So unanimous, and so obviously we don't have anyone who disapproves. So having said that, motion approved, and the report will go forward with any adjustments needed. Really appreciate all of you taking the time during the holidays to come together, and we look forward to talking with you all next year. Just a reminder, we've got 2 vacancies. If you know anyone might be interested in those, it always helps us fill those and have that input from those areas, and also helps us get to a quorum when we need to get there. And so happy holidays, everyone. Appreciate your input. Thank you for joining today. And I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Seconded.
We'll take it. You can call for the motion.
Your member.
Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy
New Year,
New Year,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.